Hey there, welcome to Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting. I'm Nicole and this is episode 58. This is a YouTube channel where I primarily talk about my knitting. It's a show and tell of the things I've made since I last recorded and the things I'm working on. And Professor Purl gets its name because I am a professor in the Pacific Northwest of the United States in Oregon. It is so beautiful out. Like, I'm on my porch and like all the leaves are changing colors. It's just, I love to record on my porch when possible and share what I've been working on. It's been a while since I recorded, 3 weeks. I like to go every 2 weeks, but it's been a semester for me. And you might see there's a puppy here. Yeah, this is Mabel. She's a rescue puppy. My daughter Matilda, who's 6, has been asking for a puppy for a long time, and the stars aligned. We have a puppy now. I'm home alone, and I'm taking a little break from the grading and the writing and all the professor things to enjoy some knitting. So Mabel and I are going to hang out here on the porch. I don't know, did I tell you that her name's Mabel? I will share all about Mabel in the personal section. We'll see how a recording a knitting podcast with a puppy goes. So I have one finished object, one small one, and I have all the whips. It's just, I needed to cast on a bunch of things. It's fall. I was really excited. I've been really stressed, and it's like how I cope. Cast on things. So I have 3 new whips that you haven't seen before. Maybe you've seen them if you follow me on Instagram. I'm profpurl over there. Everything I'll talk about today is linked below in the more. If you click more at the bottom, for like pattern pages and things like that. So let's hop into the finished object and then the works in progress. All right, my finished object is the Freedom Chosen Scarf by Kamaca Champion, a knitwear designer, and also the owner of Miss Purl in Chicago. This pattern was part of a Knitalong that I hosted in September, from September 1st to September 30th, called the Freedom Chosen Cal. I loved the message of the Freedom Chosen scarf, and it's a beautiful little scarf. I love those little scarves, and so I wanted to make one. Kamaca came to the Zoom cast on, and she said it takes her about 3 hours, and it took me about 6 hours, but that's a short project, making it like a really good gift knit or a nice little accessory for yourself. I was thinking it would look really cute on a bag. Now the bag I'm going to maybe put it on is maybe not the right bag because the bag is purple. Thinking you could put it on a bag nice and cute like that. And I think you could wear it over anything. I don't think this hot pink matches this sweatshirt I'm wearing. This is a knitting sweatshirt from Sacred Sheep, which was a yarn festival in Portland last year. And so, I mean, if it was a different sweatshirt, I think it would look good. But, or if it was a different color that I had made this in. I think this is just really darling. These look really cute over a blouse. Look at this. So cute. So cute. You could do it closer. I think I would probably wear it like this. I think that's really cute. I'm trying to keep it out of my microphone here. And the fun thing about this yarn was it was leftover. It's sport weight, maybe. And it was leftover from a sweater I made a few years ago. This was Blue Moon Fibers yarn. I don't remember the base. I don't remember the colorway. But I made a short sleeve rift sweater from Jacqueline C. Slack. And if I was organized, I'd be wearing that today with this over it. I was thinking I love like the matchy-matchy situations. And so I was thinking this over my rift sweater that's the exact same color would be super fun if I wanted. And give some flexibility, because then if you don't want this bow, you can wear the sweater without it. So I thought that would be really fun. And yeah, I it felt good to finish this, honestly. I've had such a busy, hard semester, and just finishing something little felt really rewarding to me and was much needed. And after I finished that, I was like, I'm going to cast some things on. And there's new Knitalong going on, the Love Knitalong. I'm going to Sacred Sheep again, so I wanted to make a sweater for that. And then it's spooky season, so 3 new whips, and that is what I've been working on when I've had time in between the puppy and life to knit. So I have a lot of fun knitting to show you. This is my Portland leather bag that I got in a mystery. It was like the mystery box. My husband Kyle, for my birthday one year, got me one of the mystery boxes, and this was the large tote. I had never heard of the mystery boxes, and basically you get 4 to 5 pieces of leather, but it's a surprise. You don't get to pick out. So I didn't pick this light purple out, but I love it, and I use it as a sweater knitting bag. And it is holding, just kidding. That is my love note. This Halloween bag that I got from the Knitting Cup in Texas. I don't remember, Belton maybe? One of the very first interviews of my channel. Okay, so I'm knitting the Alpine Bloom by Caitlin Hunter, and my friend Emily, the botanical knitter, is also knitting an Alpine Bloom, and my friend Jasmine doesn't want to knit flowers, so she's knitting the sheep camp. And but it's like a little mini knit along, except that 2 of us are knitting the same sweater, 1 of us isn't. But we like message about how it's going and things. And I've wanted to make a short sleeve sweater out of this yarn that I've had in my collection for such a long time. This yarn's from 2012. My friend Megan and I went to graduate school together, and she gave me a gift card to a yarn store called Happy Knits, which was a yarn store in Portland. So we were living in Illinois, and we would look at this website, Happy Knits. And we both were able to visit in person at different times. And anyway, I used my gift card to buy this Jill Draper make stuff way back when. And I've always treasured it. I think it's really beautiful. It's gray, but it's got these tonalities of black and also brown in it. So the Jill Draper makes up the base is the Splendor Sock yarn base in the color Hematite. And it is 435 yards. And it is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. It's such an old yarn in my collection that, like, I don't even know if she still has this base. Maybe she has a different base at this point, but I just knew that I always wanted a short sleeve sweater in this. Not this last year at Flock, but the very first year there was Flock, I bought a special skein of Spincycle yarn from the Moondrake booth. So sometimes Spincycle does like special collaborations with companies, and so they make a Spincycle just for them. And so this was the exclusive Spincycle for Moondrake. And they have a couple of exclusive Spincycles, and this color was called Moonlight. And it's really beautiful. And I bought it at the time thinking I would make a Alpine Bloom with it. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. All right, let me show you the sweater. So it starts off with this lace collar, which is fun because, and I've made a lot of sweaters, but my sweaters are like an I-cord neck, a folded neck, a ribbed neck. I think those are pretty much the main necks I've done. And so this is the first time I've had a lace neck. The neck looks kind of wide to me, but we'll see. I haven't tried it on yet. I wanted to try it on once I finished the yoke. So the Alpine Bloom is known for being the Alpine Bloom for these blooms in the color work. There's like a hat. There's a fall version that has like a ribbed neck and it's thicker yarn. I think this was maybe the first one, maybe not, I don't know. And then here you can see this special color of the Spincycle and how it's fading. So Spincycle, I'm sure you're familiar with it, but it's this yarn that's dyed in the wool. So the wool is dyed and then they spin it. And so it creates this very marled, almost hand spun look. In a way, it is hand spun. In a way, it's also not. But yeah, so it is beautiful how it fades, and other yarn companies like Yarn Hero and things like this do this as well. Okay, so it looks really fun. Because there's this green, I feel like there was some choices that were made. Like the green was in the center to end of the skein, and so I felt like I had some options. One option with Spincycles, people will kind of pull the yarn out and be intentional about the placing and kind of like piecemeal it together. So I could have like unwound the yarn and started the green so that it was up here or in here, where see how this looks kind of like a leaf. It would have been kind of cool to have the leaves be green. So that did cross my mind of like maybe I should kind of cut my Spincycle yarn up and knit it in a way so that the green is here. And I really sat on it and thought about it, and I had a feeling that if I didn't do that, it would end up being green in the center of the flower. And I didn't mind that because it's a very vibrant green, and I think it looks pretty cool how it fades from these cool blues and pinks to this very kind of bright green. So ultimately I decided to not do that and to just let the yarn do what the yarn wants to do. And I'm glad I did that. I think it looks really neat. Okay, so I had all this is scrunched on my needles here. I'm not really worried about it with the floats and things. It may not look spectacular now, but I know I've done color work enough to know that when I block it, it'll be fine. I have my stitch stoppers on here that say, it's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Kind of captures my motto right now. Anyway, I have a situation. And this is interesting because this sweater is for Sacred Sheep. And last year I knit a sweater for Sacred Sheep. Last year I had a problem of like playing yarn chicken, of like not having enough yarn. I ended up winning it, though it didn't matter because I didn't finish my sleeves in time for Sacred Sheep. So I wore an unfinished sweater to Sacred Sheep, but I still eventually did finish it, and I won yarn chicken. That same exact situation happened again where I had yarn chicken, because here's what happened. I think that you would think I would learn my lesson, because why I made a mistake at Sacred Sheep last year was I didn't read the pattern. I just went off my brain and was like, I've been knitting long enough that I like think, oh, I know how much yarn I need. Like, this is how much yarn I need for a fingering weight. This is how much yarn I need for a DK weight sweater. Like, I'm overconfident, if you will. And so that's what happened last year with the milkweed. I was like, I know how many skeins I need for a DK weight sweater, and I did not look at the pattern, which said a different amount than I had in my head. And same thing here. So I have knit a lot of short sleeve colorwork sweaters, and specifically I've knit a lot of Caitlin Hunter sweaters. And for example, I've knit the Miserina tee. And with the Miserina tee, one skein of Spincycle would be enough to knit the motif. In fact, the Miserina I made with like 2 mini skeins of yarn. So I was like just overconfident, like, okay, I'm just going to buy a skein of Spincycle for the Alpine Bloom. And for over a year now, I've wanted to knit this Alpine Bloom with this yarn and with this Spincycle. And I love it so much. So I'm getting ready to make this with Emily. I print off the pattern, and then I decide to read the pattern. And I realize that I probably don't have enough yarn for Spincycle, for the Spincycle that I had. So I went into Ravelry and I clicked on the projects and found people who are making the same size Alpine Bloom as me. Some people completed the size 3, which is what I'm making, with 1 skein of Spincycle. A lot of people did not. I would say most people that knit a size 3 used 1 skein of Spincycle and a little bit more. And so it was a gamble. I was like, I know that I need more yarn, but I'm going to try to see how far I can get. And I ran out of yarn. And I still have a lot of the motif left to go. I still need to do, there's like a set of leaves that come after this. Why is that so problematic with Spincycle? Is each Spincycle yarn, though they have different colorways, like Ghost Ranch is a famous colorway, like her iconic colorway of theirs, though this exists, Ghost Ranch, it will look different skein to skein due to the way and the nature of how this yarn is made. So I bought this skein of Spincycle a long time ago, like over a year and a few months ago. So it's just highly unlikely that I'm going to get a skein that looks like this. Also, if you go onto the Moondrake website, it's not like they share these different types of skeins. So when I ran out of yarn, I felt like I had two options. Option one was to go to my local yarn store and just bring this with me. And they have a lot of Spincycle, and it's just a little bit left. It's just the leaves. And find something that this would fade into that would look nice. I think you could buy like a different colorway, like Midsummer or something like this, and it could potentially look really good still. Option B is just a gamble and to just buy a random skein of Moonlight from Moondrake and hope it works out. So I messaged Emily and Jasmine because we're having this little mini knit along, and that's what you do. Like, you ask your friends, what do you think I should do? And both of them agreed that the best option would be for me to go to my local yarn store and carry and hold this in and see what it would fade into next. Because there's a lot of options here. Because there's this like purpley blue, pinks, and then blues and greens. So I could really pick kind of any Spincycle yarn that would look good with that for the last part. And so I think that they're right. That's what I should have done. But I'm running out of time here because Sacred Sheep is November 1st. And I'm also really busy right now, like with my work and my life. And so it could have gone on Saturday or Sunday, but it didn't work out for me to go this weekend. Then Naughty Lamb is closed on Mondays, so I'd have to go today. I just didn't feel like going today. I felt like having a stay-at-home day. So I ended up just doing option B, which is maybe not the best option, which is like kind of a gamble. Like, will this work out? And just went onto the Moondrake website, bought a skein of Moonlight Spincycle, and when it comes, I'm going to hold up the different pieces of yarn and see what will make a good transition, and then just do that. That's my plan. You think it's going to work out? Yeah. I don't have a backup plan if it doesn't work out. I guess I could drive to the local yarn store then and then just keep that other skein for something else. But yeah, so decisions were made there. My takeaway here, everything's a learning opportunity. My takeaway here is that I just really need to read patterns. It's fine to be confident, but like I've been too confident and it's created just yarn chicken and yarn problems for me. And so I just need to read the pattern, see what yardage is suggested, and purchase the yarn for that. Because particularly when I'm purchasing yarn that I know, like, I want to make XYZ with it. I think it's like a different situation when you're purchasing yarn and you're like, I don't know what I want to make with this. Of course, you can't look at the pattern then. But in both of these cases where I was playing yarn chicken, I knew I wanted to make the milkweed sweater. I knew I wanted to make the Alpine bloom. I really should have just, oh, there's a bee over here. I really should have just looked at the pattern. Okay. That was a lot of talk about the Alpine bloom. I will say I'm so excited about it. And even though, I mean, today we're at the halfway point. I really only have about 2 weeks left to finish this. It is possible. I think I have like the hardest part done, which is the yoke. I mean, the yoke technically is not done yet, but I mean, once you split for sleeves, it's smooth sailing. Or I will be wearing an unfinished sweater to Sacred Sheep again. So while I am waiting for my yarn to arrive to finish the Alpine bloom, this is a good opportunity for me to work on my love note. So I'm hosting a love note love knit along. On Instagram, we're using the hashtag love note love cal24, so you can use that hashtag and tag me. In Ravelry, I haven't opened the thread yet. I'm hoping by the time this airs or posts on YouTube, I will have opened up those threads. I've been a little bit behind. So I'm using Nano Stitch Lab yarn for my love note. This is the label. And the colorway is Mazer, and I'm using the Nano Fuzz, which is 72% kid mohair and 28% silk, and the Scientific Sock, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. Okay, so this yarn, I've wanted it last block, didn't get it, regretted it, so I got it this block. And it's showing up really accurate in the camera there. It is just that bright in that coral neon. And so I will really enjoy this as a love note. And my plan is to do a traditional love note. I've really modified love notes a lot. I've done a full over collar. I've done no lace. I've done short rows, things like that. I think my plan on this is to do a traditional love note, but I will add some short row shaping to the neck. But other than that, maybe no modifications. I just love it. Okay, here's my holdup why I haven't cast it on yet, is I did the swatch and I'm just torn with the swatch. And even today as I'm talking about this, I'm still feeling torn. So here's the swatch I did. And for my swatch, I've blocked it and everything, and so this is like what it would grow to. And you can think of the swatch as like a little piece of your sweater, and so I enjoy doing that. And I know that some people are like, well, when I knit the sweater, I get off gauge. And that's happened to me a few times, but mostly I do knit the gauge of my swatch actually. And it gives me a sense of like what my fabric will look like, so I do really like swatching. And so here's where I'm torn. I like this fabric. I really do like this fabric a lot. It's not too dense, but it's not so drapey that you can see my skin behind it, which I actually really like. But when I measured it across, 4 inches across, I get 18 stitches. And the gauge suggested in the love note is 16 stitches. I've also knit love notes at an 18 stitch gauge. You can do the math. Like for instance, you could just make it a little proportion. So this is 18 stitches per 4 inches. So 18 stitches over 4 inches. And then I could think about like how big do I want to make my sweater. I have a 38.5 inch bust. So like how much ease do I want? Maybe I want it to be 44 inches around. So I could make a proportion of like 44 inches and then figure out the stitches and then know what size to cast on. So it's definitely like possible to do that, but when you knit a smaller gauge, so this 16 stitches is in the gauge, that means those stitches are bigger, which means like knitting the sweater would go faster than if I'm knitting an 18 stitch gauge. And one of my love notes, I knit it completely to pattern, gauge and everything, and it has this large gauge, and I love it, and I wear it a ton. And so even though I'm like loving this fabric, I'm feeling like maybe I should truly do this love note to pattern and do the 16 stitch gauge, which would mean going up a needle size or two. So the love note suggests a US size 10, and I'm a super loose knitter, so I will not be knitting my love note on a US size 10. So this that gave me 18 stitches per 4 inches was a US size 7, so I went down 3 needle sizes. So I'm thinking if I want to get the 16 stitch gauge, I probably will go up to an 8. Maybe a 9. Usually I have to go down 2 needle sizes, bare minimum, to get gauge. So maybe my knitting's changing because with Caitlin Hunter, I'm knitting that pattern with the right needle size. Anyway, that's all I have for the love note. It's just a swatch. But the holdup has been, do I want to go off gauge or do I want to do gauge? Anyway, let me know if you gauge swatch. Are you a believer? I think one time on Instagram I asked like, what's your like knitting rebel moment? Like how are you a knitting rebel? And the swatching was the number one. Like I don't swatch, and everything turns out fine. Really, some sweaters you can knit without swatching for sure. Like you could like if you're trying it on as you go, and if you're willing to rip things out. So if that's your philosophy of like, I'm going to try it on as I go, and then if it's not working out, I'm willing to rip it out, then it's actually really fine that you don't swatch. I'm probably making somebody cringe somewhere saying that. That being said, I always swatch though. My last whip is a new sock. And if you are not a new viewer, if you've been around here, you know that I've got a lot of sock whips and I have no business, like seriously, zero business casting on a sock. I do feel like I need to share why I cast on a new sock. I don't need to justify anything to anybody, but I do think it's funny that I have so many unfinished socks. But I do want to share why I cast the sock on. So my friend Melissa, who stitches Be Slippin', for my birthday, gave me this little spooky thing. And this is like a spooky little bag. And it's from Polka Dot Creek. And inside of it were 13 little mini skeins, like a spooky countdown. And it's called Scary Apothecary. And then there was like little treats. Like a sticker, I think. Also these like little stitch markers. She gave me this birthday present early when we were at Block together. I was trying to use these on my sock needles, but they keep falling off, so I just haven't really been using them, but I have them in the bag. Okay, so what it is like you unwrap each one of them, and there was 13 of them, so I technically should have them all open, but I've been just opening them as I finish the yarn, not as the date is. So there was 13, so if I was opening one per day, I would have all 13 opened already, because it's past October 13th. Well, what I've instead been doing is when I finish knitting the mini skein, then I open up the next one. So I still have some to open. And this is unlike any kind of advent I've ever had, where it is spooky themed, A, but B, it's self-striping yarn. So it's creating whatever you would make of it, it would be this kind of monster mash of self-stripings. And since I knew it was going to be that, because Melissa told me that, I decided that I would put that on my feet. Because, like, I don't know if I'm going to like all the monster mashing together. And I'm really glad, because it is a little funky, and I'm glad it's going on my feet. Okay, so the first one I opened was called Poison Apple. And that's what this is. And I decided it was a 10-gram mini, so I decided to use all 5 grams for the cuff, which was a good idea. And look, I also started the second one because I'm so terrible at starting second socks. I just thought I'm going to get it going. I mean, you know, so weak compared to the other one, but. And then the second colorway, something maybe it was like Bat Cave with these 3 colors. And then this is like a brown here and like kind of a mauve. I don't even know what that is. I do remember what this colorway was, this gray, pink, and black. This was called Tarantula Tongue. I remember that because I thought it was so funny. Yeah, so they each have kind of a spooky name, each one of them. And yeah, so I'm to the heel. I think this was day 7. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so I'm only on the day 7 and there's 13. So I'm halfway. I usually, when I'm doing a heel flap and gusset, and a 9-inch, I love a 9-inch needle for socks. I usually switch to double points for the heel flap and gusset, but I've been really busy and I just didn't have it with me. And so I started doing the heel flap and gusset with a 9-inch, and I'm probably going to keep going that way. Yeah, so I decided that I would make this a tall sock, which I don't normally make such tall socks, but just want to make sure that I use all the colors, and so I think that's what I'm going to do. And what else do I want to say about it? It's been really nice with having a puppy because she's in my lap right now and she's really good, but it's really hard to sometimes have like a big sweater because she feels tempted to bite it. She ate the Alpine bloom, and kind of ruined the color work, and I had to like fix it a little bit. So yeah, the socks have been really nice puppy knitting. Oh, so initially so this is a lot of yarn. And I thought, if I keep at that rate of just splitting it in half to knit these socks, I'll never use all the colors. So I sort of switched my strategy. You'll see there's just one color repeat. So every mini skein has 4 color repeats, and I've been just doing 1 and 1. So I really think that actually when I'm done, it's enough yarn to knit 4 socks or 2 pairs of socks. I don't know if I'll have it in me though, because I mean, I'm loving it. It's fun and funky, and it's monster mashy, but I don't know if it's like I want to knit it a second time kind of situation. So anyway, it's from Polka Dot Creek, and this is called Scary Apothecary. So yeah, all new projects since I last recorded. That's where we're at. I have other things I want to do. Like I really do want to finish my heirloom quilt cardigan before December comes, and different things like that. I don't know if it's going to happen. It seems so like manageable, like for me to get all the things done that I wanted to get done, and it just kind of feels like it's like floated away. Like the semester as a professor became something, morphed into something else, to where I just, if I finish those 3 projects I showed you this fall, I will probably be winning. That's where it's at. So yeah, but those are bringing me joy. And yeah, so I mean, sometimes there's like our hopes and our wishes about what the fall or the summer or whatever season might be, and then there's also like how life like plays out. And yeah, so I'm just kind of riding the wave of like, this is a busy season. Those are my projects that I'm going to be working on for the rest of October for sure. And hopefully the Alpine Bloom's done November 1st. We'll see. Cheer me on. We are to the personal section of the episode. So from this point forward, there's no more knitting than just personal life. I look different. I'm in a different shirt. It's a different day. I was actually just editing the episode and the sound wasn't coming through. Something must have happened with my microphone. I don't know. So there was no personal section, and I thought, well, I can come out on the porch and re-record this with Mabel. Mabel was sleeping really nicely while I was editing the podcast on my lap, and now she's awake, so we'll see how this goes. All right, let me tell you the story about our puppy Mabel. So my husband Kyle and my daughter Matilda and I have wanted a dog for a long time. We used to have a dog. Her name was Sophie. She was my original dog that I had even before I was married and before I had a child. I got her in 2009, and she was a Yorkshire Terrier mix, and she was the best dog. I loved her. She passed away in December of 2020, and so I haven't had a dog since then. And yeah, Matilda, like a lot of children, I'm sure, wanted a pet, and our family really wanted to adopt a dog. And I won't like get into all of it, but it was hard, and like I feel like there's a lot of dogs to adopt, and also it's hard to adopt a dog, if that makes any sense. And yeah, so we had our name in at like 3 or 4 different shelters. We do have some constraints, like I didn't want a really giant dog, and I was hoping for a smaller dog, and I was also hoping for a puppy. Anyway, I had a big trip to Chicago coming up. Like it was like a work trip. So our whole family went to Chicago, and we're back now. This is partly why I haven't recorded in a while. And the day, maybe 2 days before we left for Chicago, my husband Kyle was on one of the rescue sites, like Facebook page. And he's like, look at this dog. And the dog's name was Beans. There's all these puppies, and they all had kind of camp names like Camp, Beans, S'mores, things like this. And every single one of the puppies in that litter were adorable, just the cutest. But I would say I was like, Beans is the cutest dog. So Mabel was Beans. I think she looks like a teddy bear. I can't even handle it. And so emailed, because the next day they were gonna be at an adoption vet
PetSmart, that rescue, and there was like a list for Beans, now Mabel, and I was like, I will just pay for her now, right now, tonight, like all of it. So I basically adopted Mabel Beans before even meeting her. And so I don't know, I just felt something with her little face, and I still think this way, that she's the absolute cutest. Anyway, so we go to PetSmart, and it was just like this immediate connection, and luckily the foster mom said that she would watch her or keep her for one more week because we were leaving for Chicago like quite literally the next day. And so we hung out with Mabel in PetSmart and officially adopted her, and then we came home. And it's just been such a wild time, which I think like when you have a busy schedule and then there's extra stress, like it just is like crazy. So here's the example of that, about like the wild time I've been having. So we adopt a dog, wild, right? Like we drive home, and we're gonna have lunch and then go to a birthday party. And my husband's like at the sink doing something, maybe washing his hands, getting ready for lunch, to make lunch. And he was looking out the window, and he had a kind of strange look on his face. Now, we look at things in our backyard all the time, like there's deer that walk in our backyard, things like this. Well, anyway, he's looking out the backyard, and he just gets this kind of panic look, and he runs outside with no shoes on. And I hear him yell, "Did you call 911?" And I see him with the hose, like water. Well, our neighbors, like we have neighbors behind, like we live on the urban growth boundary, and so we like live in town, but our neighbors behind us like have horses and like a horse pasture, and it's cool out now, and it has rained a little bit, but at the time that this happened, it hadn't rained for 100 days. And basically our neighbors were mowing their horse pasture, and like there was a spark of their old mower on the bearings, and it caught their horse pasture on fire. And then that was like a fire raging towards our house. It was literally like the wind was like, it was coming right towards our house, and it was so terrifying. So terrifying. And so it was just such an interesting day, because the high, like I was crying tears of joy about adopting a dog, and then the low of like, you know, safety. Is my child gonna be okay? I need to call 911, like, you know. So yeah, I called 911, and they were like, the Tualatin Fire and Rescue is on its way. And they were super calm, and the fire department quite literally saved the day. And they were so fast, and they got the fire out so fast. And the amount of gratitude I have about that is just so huge, because had they been any slower, or there was any kind of delay in like getting that fire out, for sure our yard and then our house and all that would have caught on fire. So anyway, so thankful and grateful for the fire department, and that was just like so much. And then the next day we left for Chicago. So I had 3 math conferences. I would say that's very unusual. Normally I only go to 1 math conference. Normally there's not more than 1 math conference in a week. But there was one that's like a math leadership conference. So it was for people who are like instructional leaders, coaches at their schools. And there was one that's for teachers, and then there was like a research conference. And so I presented at all 3 in Chicago. So yeah, I was in Illinois for over a week, and I gave 4 presentations, and I was taking public transportation, and it was so busy that when I came home, I was just really grateful to be home. However, in Chicago, we also had a ton of fun. So my mom, she came up to Chicago, and she hung out with me, Matilda, and Kyle. And I was really into American Girl dolls when I was a child. My very first one was Kirsten, and I remember getting her for Christmas, and it's just it being a really special Christmas. And yeah, I loved the historical books with those dolls and things. So I always wanted to go to the American Girl doll store, so we had to do that. with Matilda. And I think that was really special for my mom and I mean, and Matilda, but I think like it was just really special for us too. And yeah, Matilda had a blast. She loved it. She wanted to go back. I don't think like she understood like it was like a one-time deal thing. So yeah, so she got the Hollyhock course. That's what my mom got her at the American Girl doll store, and Matilda loves it. And then we ate dinner there, and since she picked out a horse, she didn't have a doll, and I didn't pack a doll to like have dinner with, but the American Girl doll store has like loaner dolls, so that was pretty cool. So Matilda had dinner with a doll that was American Girl doll store's doll, not her doll. But yeah, so that was fun. And then when I was working, my mom, Kyle, and Matilda went to the Field Museum and the Shed Aquarium. We also ate a lot of good food, like so much good food. I had a Chicago hot dog, which, yeah, if you know, you know, when you're in Chicago, you need to get one of those. And yeah, it was a blast. And one of the reasons why I was doing 4 different presentations is because I have a book coming out, and it should be out now. Like, I got an invoice that like the box of books is on its way to my house, and I want to do an unboxing video, and not for this channel, but for math people that care about the book. Yeah, and so a few of my presentations had to do with that, and yeah, so it was just really neat. But because I grew up in the Midwest and my husband grew up in the Midwest, and now we live here on the West Coast, we don't go back to Illinois all that much, and so I wanted to kind of like make the most out of my time there. So even though I was in Chicago for the entire week mostly, Kyle and Matilda went to Kyle's parents' house, and they live on a farm. And so one of the days I went out to the farm too, and that was really fun because Kyle's whole family is like farmers, and so Kyle got to do some farming, Matilda got to do some farming, she got to ride in a combine, and that was cool. I think my favorite is that we got to pick some pumpkins. I've been so busy, I haven't been to like a pumpkin patch like I normally do, but Matilda got to go to her grandma and grandpa's pumpkin patch, and I think she picked like 50 pumpkins, helped them put them in the wagon and stuff like that. So that was really fun. And then they stayed on the farm, and then I went back to Chicago. I took a bus from Rockford, and it was really nice. I would totally do it again. I really enjoyed the bus, and I knit the whole time. So then I went back to Chicago to do some work and things like that. But then I took a bus back to Rockford because Kyle has a huge family. Just, I don't even know how many cousins he has. He has so many cousins. So of course one of his cousins was getting married, and so we went to a wedding. I mean, it was busy. And so when I was home, when we finally came home, I was grateful for that experience. It was pretty epic, but I also was like ready to I don't know, get back into a routine, and I am not quite there yet, but I am hopeful that it will come. I actually just have kind of resigned to the fact that maybe this semester is just going to be wild. And it's not going to have as much routine as some of my other semesters, because I also have some travel in November coming. But I'm just going to embrace it. There's seasons, and maybe the spring semester, which starts in January, will be my time. Okay, so Mabel's laying on my lap here. So I feel really scattered because I wasn't planning on doing this, and I already did it, but I don't even remember everything I said. So Mabel's just laying on my lap, and that is kind of how she is, the puppy. She just needs to be on me, on my lap, or Kyle's, or Matilda's. She's got little hiccups now. Yeah, and I just wonder if it partly is just like her entry into the world and like the nature of being a rescue dog. At first I wanted to name her Callie because she was found in California in a bush with her mom and her siblings, and so I thought it'd be cute to call her Callie, but Matilda didn't like that. Matilda wanted to call her Beans for a long time. She said that she didn't want to change the name. And then all of a sudden one day Matilda was like, let's call her Mabel. And so it felt right. I think Matilda and Mabel sound really cute, like really cute names, really sweet. And so even though she's laying here and she laid on my lap the entire podcast, I don't want it to come across it like she's the calmest puppy ever. She's a puppy. I would say there's about like 2 hours a day where she just goes bonkers, and I'm just like throwing the ball, like, don't bite me, bite this instead, that kind of situation. But then the rest of the day she's a little lap puppy, and I'm really enjoying that. I don't know if you can see. See here, a little lap puppy. Yeah, so she's so sweet. And yeah, I've really only had one dog as like an adult. That was my dog Sophie, that passed away in 2020. And I had dogs as a child, but like only one dog that was like fully mine. And Mabel is just so much different from Sophie. And I guess it's just like also like what it's like as humans, we're all so different. And so it's just interesting from like my memory too of like what potty training Sophie was like versus Mabel, and different things like that. Like Sophie would have never laid on me like this all day. But also Sophie, I feel like, was like a little quicker to learn things than Mabel, but that's fine. Anyway, so since we've been back, there's been lots of fun things. Like Matilda's had a birthday party for one of her friends, and there was this face painting for it and things like that. And today is Friday, and it's Matilda, for me, I don't know when you're watching this, but it's Matilda's fall festival at her school on Friday night, and like they get to like bob for apples, and there's a chili cook-off, and they get to decorate pumpkins and dress up in costumes. So she's very excited about it. Like, she's been talking about it nonstop. And so I've been home with Mabel all day, which is nice because she'll be home alone a little bit tonight. And then tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday, Matilda has a swim meet, and I'm really excited to watch that for Matilda. It's her very first swim meet of short course season. It's a home meet. Her first grade teacher's coming. Some of her first grade friends are coming. I'm excited for it. So lots to look forward to. I say bye. She's like, I just want to sleep. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you're having a really great fall. And if you're making something special this fall, please tell me about it. And if you're participating in the Love Knitalong, also please tell me about it. I'm a little bit behind on my Love Note, but I love that I have the Love Note Knitalong to get me motivated. And yeah, so I'll see you soon. Hopefully I record in 2 weeks, but if not, it'll be at least 3 weeks. Thanks for watching. Happy knitting.